This is Howard Finster. Thank you very much. We're glad to have y'all with us. I don't really know what I'll start off on. I'll start off on. Well, I'll just give you a few samples of some of the old songs you had never heard. They don't even have them in the songbook anymore. How about that?
That'd be fun.
Okay. Some my fathers over yonder. Some my fathers over yonder. Some my fathers over yonder. Over on the other shore. Some bright day we'll go and see them. Some bright day we'll go and see them. Some bright day we'll go and see them. Over on the other shore. That bright day may be tomorrow. That bright day may be tomorrow. That bright day.
Paradise Garden is a 4-acre garden that Reverend Howard Finster started creating in the 60s and 70s. So we are a outdoor art environment. So initially Howard Finster started building what you see outside today after moving to the area in the 60s, and he started building all of this in his backyard. He also, around the same time, had a vision and started painting art for the first time ever. Really, before this, he was a Baptist preacher and kind of picked up odd jobs on the side of things. So he worked in a textile mill, he repaired bicycles, he repaired lawnmowers in his shops in the back of his house, which now grew into Paradise Garden. So year by year, he would add and add and add. So we ended up with structures outside called the rolling chair ramp, the hubcap tower. He built an entire sculpture out of bicycle parts that he would cast aside if he didn't need to use them. So really what Paradise Garden is kind of Howard Finster's legacy in a way, and we're operated by a nonprofit called Paradise Garden Foundation, and it's our mission to continue to tell Howard Finster's story, continue to invite visitors here to enjoy all of the 4 acres that he created, and continue to draw attention to the paintings that he made throughout his life. And he painted thousands of paintings. I think a lot of it was one of those classic situations where if you build it, they will come. So word would spread organically that Howard Finster, this Baptist preacher, was building an entire 4-acre art environment in his backyard, in addition to, repairing your bicycle and repairing your TV and radio. And so slowly more and more people would come to visit this place. And I'm told it was a lot of students from Athens, UGA in Athens. So musicians and artists. And that's ultimately like the connection that got REM to come film their music video here in the garden, Radio Free Europe, which is like a great archival documentation of what the garden looked like at that time, because at that moment you could still run through the bicycle tower. Unfortunately, it's kind of settled a little bit because this is very wet swamp ground. And you could just see how lush the garden was at that time. So really, I think it was really word of mouth, and then all of the work Howard did to do the album artwork for REM, and then ultimately the little creatures. And then also he ended up going on to perform on The Late Show with Johnny Carson. So I think that really catapulted him into fame because a small town preacher from Summerville, Georgia, in the corner of Northwest Georgia, on TV with Johnny Carson, and he really stole the show. He performed his banjo, like he sang, which I think some folks don't realize, that Howard Finster was also a very talented musician, in addition to just being a very eccentric and he's hard to describe, but people gravitated towards him. And I think given the platform with Johnny Carson, it just cast out the knowledge of Howard Finster to a wider audience, and that ultimately brought even more and more people to the garden too. So we are sitting in our visitor center and museum, and the front half of this building was an original structure that was pre-existing, when Howard was here. He actually lived in this building behind us. It's now our gift shop and our media center where we screen our documentary about Howard Finster when it's not, 60 degrees outside. And so thinking about this organization and how we try to keep a lot of things outside as Howard last wanted them, what we have found is that this space is really great to showcase original artwork by Howard Finster that was not from the garden. So like an example behind me, this is an exhibit of a lot of the woodworks that Howard Finster created before really Paradise Garden was built up as you see it outside. So it's just an example of his kind of can-do attitude and how he taught himself how to essentially create clocks and dollhouse furniture for his kids. That's originally how he started, and then he started selling them. And at the time, he was working as a preacher, but also picking up shifts at Regal's textile mill, which is just down the street. And so he kind of took pointers on how to create things in a conveyor belt type style. And so that's really how he would make those clocks. So that's really quite exciting about this space, is that we can show art of living artists or Howard's contemporaries. So on site, we have 3 Airbnbs within 2 different cottages. So our oldest, our first Airbnbs are just across the street, across from our visitor center, in a yellow duplex. So we have suite 1 and 2 tucked away that share a wall. And if you want to stay the weekend, it's the perfect venue, because one of the best perks of staying in suite 1 and suite 2 is that you get a key to the front gate to explore the garden at night, which is a magical and slightly spooky and wonderful experience, because it is so hard to see all of the garden during the day. And it's funny because a lot of visitors call the visitor center and they say, how long should I allot for a visit to Paradise Garden? And it's so hard because we've had people stay for a half an hour. Some people have stayed the entire day. But a lot of the Airbnb guests really like to be able to absorb the garden in their own way on their own time. So even after we lock up the visitor center at 5 p.m., our Airbnb guests are free to roam the garden at their leisure. And it's really exciting too, because around the holidays, we do tend to hang Christmas lights. So it's also very seasonal and special. And our third and newest Airbnb, you have the capability of renting out an entire cottage. So that's great if you have a larger group and you want to do kind of a getaway with friends. There's a king-size bed, a pull-out couch, and a room with 2 twin beds, so it's like party central. And the great thing about that newest Airbnb is that it just opens up into the garden. So you walk out the back door and you are free to explore the mosaic garden. You're free to just explore all of the grounds back there. And that was a labor of love, again, by our amazing board. So Eddie Willingham, who designed the extension to the visitor center, also designed that structure. And we have another wonderful asset on our board. Her name is Summer Lofton. She's an interior designer based out of Atlanta. And so she worked really closely with Eddie Willingham to create a very unique experience in the new bungalow. And they sought inspiration from Howard Finster's artwork and his other similar folk artists around the time, some that have come from Finster Fest. And then also a lot of Howard Finster's written word as well. So those are all design elements seen in the bungalow. So that one's pretty special. Aside from Finster Fest, I will say that we do try to host a lot of events throughout the year as well. So we offer summer art camps for students in the summer months. Throughout December, we have certain days that we're open late so that all of our visitors can experience the garden after hours if they don't want to stay in our Airbnbs. And then we also have quarterly what we call creative spirit retreats, which are art making and yoga workshops that happen here because we have found that this is a very healing and peaceful space. So that's why we have continued and started that series of programs throughout the year. And then of course we have Finster Fest and what we call another event, which we call the Outsider Art Trail Tour. And that's around Father's Day. So I would recommend if anyone is considering a trip to Paradise Garden, even just for the day, to check out our website where we post all of our events, upcoming events, and fundraisers and all of that. If you would like to learn more about Paradise Garden, I recommend checking out our website, which is paradisegardenfoundation.org, and you will find information there on how to get more involved.